Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Leverage is what you're going to need. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B. C.L.I.M.B. Creating leverage in the music business. That's brilliant. Mm-hmm. That's a backstory from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And Brent helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you can write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he's going to connect you to the pros so you get a shot to create a relationship. And you can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other. Johnny D.
What's up, buddy?
Hello. I bet you do wish there were a couple more Johnny D's to help you lug all the stuff up the stairs this morning.
I missed your face. Brent and I are sitting in the same room today, which is cool. Right. And also on the same mic, which ought to be real interesting for the editor.
Sorry, editor.
Sorry, Aaron.
And Dr. Fauci.
That's right. There's no masks here.
Oh, boy.
We're going down, riddled with disease.
We will have to edit that out later. Something unfortunate happens.
So today's episode is my episode, and it's called Pants Down.
Of course.
And here's why we call it that. Straight up, we're supposed to do an interview today, and our interviewee had an issue. Like his job, for whatever reason, doesn't require him to have a laptop computer.
No.
So he hasn't had a computer in years that he's had to deal with. He must have one probably at work or something.
Yes. And I think he's just one of those newfangled young kids that are artists. And so he has a tablet and a phone, and that gets him through it.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
And so
he's young and he's an artist.
And so the platform we use, Zencaster, to create these things doesn't allow iOS.
Apparently.
So you'd have to be like on a computer. So
get with the Zencaster. We love you, but get with it.
so this particular person was going to borrow his girlfriend's computer. And in between the time we booked the interview and today, he broke up with his girlfriend. So he pulled out some old crusty computer from the closet that didn't work. And so we had to reschedule. Now, on to the real drama is that Johnny doesn't have anything prepared. Mm-hmm. Caught with my pants down.
Hence the title. That is the best possible meaning of that title.
That's right. So Brent and I just figured, well, we're here in the same room because Brent's out running up and down Music Row this week. So we're going to pull some stuff out of our behind.
Which is easy to get to because our pants are down.
That's right.
Exactly. If you're going to pull stuff out your butt, good thing your pants are down. Makes it a whole lot easier.
So this ought to be real interesting, guys. But obviously, we're going to do this because consistency matters. And we've got a subject matter that we have scrambled to talk about here. And it's going to be interactive with you, believe it or not. So this will be cool. But before we get to that, let's take care of a little business. Join the C.L.I.M.B community if you haven't done so already. This is a thriving community. Songwriters, singers, indie artists, musicians. Ask some great questions. Get some great answers on there. It's a think tank. Right?
Yeah.
And what are other people doing? Figure out what they're doing to help solve that problem, and you're going to get some great answers in there. We try to put regular information in there. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you consume your podcast. Leave a rating and review. We hope it's a 5-star, but if it's a 1-star, we'll read that too.
Just try to make it humorous at least.
Yeah, that's right. And then finally, tell a friend about it. If we're commanding this amount of attention from you once or twice a week, it's got to be for a good reason. So tell somebody else about it. Let them know, hey, this is a good thing here.
That's right. And speaking of the C.L.I.M.B community, I'd like to share every Wednesday we do a new hikes post. So that is a place in the comments there for you to share your wins, big or small. We love them all your music-related wins. So I just want to share a couple of these this week. Nathan Harden says, been writing like a beast, at least as far as quantity goes, hopefully as well in quality. Sunday Joe Graham and I have a couple of songs in the pitching process. And by November, I hope to get even more going through the process. So I know Nathan and Sunday Joe met through the community, the C.L.I.M.B community, the songwriting community. So somewhere in our communities, they met and started writing together. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know Sunday Joe's a climber as well. Let's see. Chris Scheller, I think is how you pronounce it, says, I potentially have a collaboration opportunity with a well-known musician in my genre. I've admired his work for a very long time. So good luck, Chris.
Yeah.
And the last one I'll share here is from Keith Gill Jr. He says, I was nominated for the second month in a row as a one-to-watch songwriter from NSAI.
Nice.
Let's only keep this train moving in a forward direction. So
congrats.
That's a few of the wins for the week, new heights. So congratulations, climbers. And like I said, big or small, man, we love all the wins. And so that's a place for you to share that with each other and keep each other motivated and celebrate together.
And remind each other that these little baby steps are happening all the time.
That's
you don't want to give up. You don't want to give up. Oh, and shout out to American Songwriter Magazine.
Yes, we are proud to be part of the American Songwriter Podcast Network with some other great podcasts. So you can check that out at americansongwriter.com/podcast. A lot of great shows on there. We're just glad to be amongst them.
That's right. Actually, we got to give a shout out too to Disc Makers, because one of the episodes that they had done a
blog post on.
Yeah,
there was a recent podcast episode that got turned into a blog post over Disc Makers and got picked up by Hypebot.
Hell yeah.
Which is fun. So
stoked about that.
Yeah.
That's a big deal to us. So anyway, well, let's get into it. So Brent and I just were talking this morning about different things that are being missed in the new music industry on the digital platform, some of the problems they're having. A number of episodes back, it might have been like a number of years back, I shared some data that proved essentially that the music industry really isn't doing a good job of breaking new artists.
And making new superstars.
Or making new superstars, let's say it that way. And so the question remains, and I don't know that we have an answer to it, but will there be any superstars in the future, or will it just be this bunch of niche artists or whatever? But the data that I shared was the top 10 grossing tours. And we talked about, like in 2017, these are the tours that, whether they're charging massive amounts of money for a ticket or whether they're getting a medium ticket price, but tens of thousands of people every single show, they have grossed the top 10 amount of money over the course of a year. And in 2017, the top 10 grossing tours, 2 of those artists were over the age of 74 and had 50-year-old brand names. So what I mean by 50-year-old brand names is that they have been on the radio for 50 years at least, right? So that was Paul McCartney and the Stones, who both, I believe, hit radio airwaves in 64. So that's a long while. Yeah, that's insane, right? The next 5 artists were over the age of 55 and had 30-year-old brand names. They've been on the radio for over 30 years. That was Metallica, that was Guns N' Roses, that was U2 on the 30th anniversary of the Joshua Tree tour. That was Garth Brooks, and that was, Dave Gahan's band, I forget, Your Own Personal Jesus.
I just remember the Johnny Cash version.
That's Hurt, right?
Well, he also did that.
Your Own Personal Jesus?
Yeah, he did that on one of his American recordings, one of the Rick Rubin things.
That's insane. That's a heroin song.
Well, there you go.
That's crazy. Sorry, I forget the name. So it's 5, 6, 7. So the 8th artist was Coldplay. Okay, Chris, what's his name?
Martin.
Chris Martin from Coldplay. He's got a 17-year-old brand name because I think their first single came out in 2000.
Wow.
And then that gets us to 8. The last 2 artists, one was in their 30s. That was Bruno Mars. He's got an 11-year-old brand name. And the other was the redhead guy, 27 years old.
Oh, Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran, yeah. And I think he's got an 11-year-old brand name too. I think he's been out for that long, right?
Wow.
But he's 27. He's the only one in his 20s, right? So why is that freaky? Because if you go back 30 years, and this is what I had done on this previous episode and looked at the top 10 grossing tours from 1987. The old guy was David Bowie. He was 40.
And he was the old guy.
He was the old guy, okay? And that was a Glass Spider tour. At that time, at 1987, so he had, 77, 67, he got a like 20-ish-year-old brand name. Okay, he'd been on the radio for that long. 3 of the artists had 11-year-old brand names and were in their 30s, and that was Alabama, that was Boston, and that was Huey Lewis and the News. So that's what we got, 3, 4 there. And then everybody else was in their 20s, for the most part, with a brand name that was 5 years or less old. They've been on the radio for 5 years or less.
Wow.
That was Madonna. That was Def Leppard. It was Whitney Houston on her first record. And that was U2, because that's when Joshua Tree came out. Now, that was their fourth record. They might have like a 6-year-old brand name maybe or more, but still, they were in their 20s. Yeah. And then Michael Jackson, Bad. Now, you can argue that Michael Jackson was on the radio, has a bigger brand name with the Jackson 5. I could see that, but I think it's also important to note, like with an asterisk, that Epic didn't even want to sign Michael Jackson after the Jackson 5. They thought it was all over. So he had to recreate the whole thing as Michael Jackson. And if you follow other artists, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to leave a band called this and start your own solo career.
Especially when you were a kid. Yeah. You were the cute little face Michael Jackson in ABC or whatever. Yeah. And now you're a man. And then do a solo career. I mean, it works for some people. It doesn't often work, though. So that's telling. So that shows the power of radio and broadcast marketing when we didn't have any choice but to listen to what they were serving up, and how a debut artist like Whitney Houston can come out and be in the top 10 grossing tour because of Record, which is such a smash hit. Yeah. Right. And now we're just recycling the same old stuff, clearly, because they're having trouble breaking through. So this led us to talking about, what does that mean? Like, how do you brace? We're just going to have an open discussion here and just kind of brainstorm. This is the pop quiz version of the show today because I don't know what's coming.
And listen, when you guys, like, if you have ideas about this, then by all means, hit us up in the Clown community. Email us at info@daredevilproduction.com and let us know, like, some different ideas. So let's just revisit this particular conversation. Then led me to, I just flew back from Arizona. My dad got married. Oh, and awesome. While I'm waiting in the airport, I had a new consultation from a new climber, super pro. He's out there touring with some artists that you've heard about. Cool. And he's also got his artist thing coming on. And so he's like, I think I just need to rethink this whole thing, point me in the right direction. And so we had a great conversation. And I'm just also excited when pros come and talk to us too. Oh, yeah. Because that just makes me feel good. Yeah. But I was giving him the conversation that I talked to a lot of artists about, like, trying to unplug everything that you know and that you learned from broadcast marketing and how you were marketed to, and try to reframe everything so that I can at least put them on the path to honoring the digital platform. Because that's the trick, right? That is the trick. Is understanding how it works. The first thing we have to do is we have to go back and we have to dissect the way it used to work, which was with radio. Oddly enough, and this is a strange thing to say, but I think it's true. I think you agree with me. Even though we found all the artists that we love and that became the soundtrack of our youth, we found those artists either directly or indirectly on the radio. That's where we discovered those artists. It's not why we listened to the radio. Right. Not to discover new artists.
Or back in the day, MTV.
Yeah.
Or CMB.
Yep. We didn't watch it to discover new artists. We were pleasantly surprised when we found a new one that we liked. Yes. But we were there for another reason.
Exactly.
We want to hear our jam.
My jam, what I'm already wanting to hear.
So I think it's important to think about that, right? To go down that rabbit hole, because how did radio work? So in marketing, we need reach and frequency. And the reason we're going to go back over this, I'm going to talk about this again, is because I want to get you online thinking about how powerful that was on radio. And then what we're going to do is try to brainstorm some different ideas on how to recreate that as best we can on a digital platform with the pros and the cons of digital. The pro being you don't need anybody's permission to do it. Right. It's, for all intents and purposes, be free, but a fire hose of artists that are trying to do it. So how do you stick out? How do you stand out, etc.?
The upside is anyone can do it. The downside is everyone is doing it.
Everyone is doing it, right. And then there is no like one channel in a market that's going to feed all this to you. So you're just not getting the same amount of exposure. Right. Right. And, you know, the Beatles are superstars. Why? Because when they first came to America and played the Ed Sullivan show, they played 5 songs on the Ed Sullivan show that night. 5 songs. Like, how I didn't realize the heck that works. That was like the Beatles show or something. Yeah. You know, strange. But it worked, but 70 million people were watching that show, which was almost 40% of the population of the United States.
Crazy.
Do 5 songs, not even one, 5.
How many stories have we heard about some music legend and what it kicked it off for them is I watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Yeah. And it changed everything.
I mean, are we going to have any of those stories that are like cultural touchstones like that these days where 30 years from now, they're like, yeah, I saw so-and-so on the Billboard Music Awards, or I saw so-and-so on...
By the way, that was another little ingredient that kind of came in and wanted us to have this conversation was Digital Music News just came out, and one of the headlines in there was that the Billboard Awards, which must have been just recently, I didn't even know it was on, the viewership was down 55%.
Yeah. And you know people are home.
Yeah, they're home. So why don't they want to watch it? Is it because the artists aren't as famous?
I didn't even know it was on.
Yeah, I didn't know it was on either. But I wonder about that. I feel like sometimes with the award shows, like Hollywood award shows, a lot of people are just really over the politics and everything of it.
I think that's part of it.
But I think also they're not as famous.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I got lucky. I turned it on randomly because when do I ever turn the TV on at night? I don't know what was going on that week, but I actually turned the TV on one night. And I was in the middle of a Garth Brooks medley. I was like, what magic is this?
Do I not know about this?
What's going on? I don't have cable. What channel is this? Oh my gosh, it's a live Garth Brooks thing. So I didn't even know what it was for.
So we go down this rabbit hole, right? But let's just remind everybody one more time how radio worked, right? First of all, there's only two choices that you had to listen to music. You listen to what you owned or you listen to the radio. That was it. That's all you had. MTV or CMT or BET or VH1. But that was it.
And what a buddy had.
Yeah.
You know, they might have that cool friend who had the Charlie Daniels Devil Went Down to Georgia where he says the bad word.
Right.
You know? Or something like that. And that was it.
I consider that to be like indirect exposure. Why did your buddy had it? Because he heard it on the radio.
He heard it from radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the way that we discovered them. Or touring, if they're opening for another act that you like as well.
Yeah.
So how did it work, right? So I always use the example with Reba McEntire. In 1994, 18th studio record comes out. First of all, slow clap, right?
Yeah, good job, Reba.
See that 18 major label records? You are everybody's jam.
Right, yeah.
She's at the top of her game. The lead single was Why Haven't I Heard From You? Now, the way that they would drop records back then was very mutually beneficial to the record labels and to radio. So they're not going to just drop the record. They're going to release the single, let that single run up the charts 2, 3, 4 months, let it heat up, get to number one, and then drop the record, right?
The single is... For the label, as far as they're concerned, the single is a commercial for come buy this record.
That's right.
Because that's where they made their money.
That's right.
Off the record, not off the record.
And so radio, for an artist like Reba, it's just going to be, this is a big deal. We're going to play this every hour on the hour. This is Bob Jones at WKKR. We got that new Reba single.
Right.
Why haven't I heard from you? Every hour on the hour. Listen now.
You can't get it anywhere else.
That's right. You can't get it anywhere else. So that's driving traffic to radio. Right? And then also...
And people sitting there with their cassette tapes ready to hit.
Trying to record. How many times did you do that?
And so mad that the DJ's talking over the intro.
Yeah, doing the post-up.
Yeah. I don't need to hear you, Bob Jones.
But while you're waiting for them to spin your jam, then they slide in this new guy named Tim McGraw that you never heard about. Now, here's the important thing, is that radio we created rotational format programming. So heavy rotation... There's medium rotation, there's light rotation. Heavy rotation, 70 spins a week. That's a lot of spins.
Yeah, it's like 10 a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's math. I just did that right then.
Really good. That just happened.
Arkansas State University!
So if you have 20 songs in heavy rotation, that's 1,400 spins. By the way, if you know that radio plays 12 songs an hour, right, times 24 hours times 7 days, that's 2,086 spins.
You lost me, but yes. Arkansas State University!
Shout out again. You got you halfway there. Not all the way.
Right.
Now, what if I'm wrong? What if it's 2186? It's either 2,000 or 2186. But at 1,400 spins with 20 songs in heavy rotation, that's more than half the bandwidth that's there. It's available. Medium rotation is about 40 spins a week-ish. Okay. Light rotation is going to be like 15. And I think everybody understood that, like, when a new artist comes out, you got maybe 1 spin or 2 spins a week that they're going to try to slide you in on. It's going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And then they're going to just test it and see what people think about the song, whatever that means.
Somebody calls in and says, I love it, or who knows.
Now, here's the thing. You guys are musicians. You guys are artists. You guys are songwriters. The only reason you would choose to go down this crazy road and spend this amount of time even just listening to us.
Because you desperately don't want to grow up.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that's an itch that you have to scratch. But also, why do you have to scratch it so much? Because you experience music so much more profoundly than the average person. It's three-dimensional for you. You can hear something once and you're in, right? You're listening to that kick drum. You're listening to the, it's a P bass. And depending on your level of sophistication and your taste, you might be like, oh, I know that's Dave Fowler on the bass right there. I can tell by the style. Or the guitar. I know that's a guitar player did that, blah, blah, blah. But the average music listener who loves music but doesn't experience it like a musician does, or a singer or a songwriter, they have to hear that song 7 times before it becomes what we call subconsciously recognizable. What does subconsciously recognizable mean, right? So you got to know this if we're going to try to recreate it on digital.
Right.
So subconsciously recognizable means that that's where your brain finally wakes up and says, hey, you need to pay attention to this. Mm-hmm. Subconsciously recognizable doesn't mean that you know it's Tim McGraw, you know it's Indian Outlaw, and you're singing along with all the words and you know it and you're a big fan. No, you just kind of got woke.
You just kind of like, I've heard that before.
So here's a great illustration for that. We've shared this many times, but I can't repeat it enough. The car that you drive right now, you're always aware of that car. Maybe it was your dream car. And you're like, this is I've saved up all, like, I'm going to go get this. This is the thing I want. Mm-hmm. I love this. Or maybe you just decided to buy it out of pragmatism or whatever. It doesn't matter. You knew about the car. You were aware of the car. This wasn't a brand new model or a brand new car manufacturer that came out of the blue. So you're very familiar with it, but still somewhere between 1 hour and 1 week of you driving that car off the lot or purchasing it from another individual, you're sitting at a stoplight and what happens?
You see another one.
All of them.
All of them. Right.
They're like, everybody's got this freaking car. Now, you were aware of it before, but it really wasn't in your awareness because your brain wasn't telling you that that was personal and relevant information. And so it was recognizable, but it wasn't subconsciously recognizable, right? But then you're at a stoplight and all of a sudden everybody's got that damn car.
Yeah.
I didn't know there's this many on the road.
Right,
This is crazy. You know, I live in Delavan, Wisconsin. There's 8,000 people in this town. Do they all own this car?
Right.
What happened? Right. So that's subconsciously recognizable, where all of a sudden your brain knows that it should pay attention to that. Okay. So how do we replicate the power of repetition? Because in marketing, we need reach and we need frequency. That's marketing 101. Reach, we got to reach millions of people. And we got to do it lots of times. Because so we're not talking about like 7 spins in a market and it becomes subconsciously recognizable for the market. The individual has to have heard it 7 times. So the first 6, it went in one ear and out the other. Mm-hmm. This is not a voice. This is a debut single from an artist, right? Or to them, it's the debut single. I mean, to Indian Outlaw was the second record for Tim McGraw, but the first record kind of came and went fast.
Yeah, the first record was like Welcome to the Club. It didn't do anything. First single that popped was second record.
That was Indian Outlaw.
Not a Moment Too Soon, and the single was Indian Outlaw.
Yeah. And that went to like number 8, and then the second single was Don't Take the Girl, and that went to number 1. Yeah. And so he's off to the races. But you don't recognize the voice. You don't know the name. There's just nothing there to grasp onto emotionally, spiritually, song, like music lover-ish, whatever. Like there's nothing there until you hear it enough times. So who decided what was on that playlist on the radio?
Program directors, labels, labels presenting it to
but the program directors decide, right?
But they decided out of what was presented to them.
That's right. Yeah. So, and highly filtered. You're not going to get on the radio without permission from the record label is going to give you a record deal, or without permission from, even if you got the record deal from radio, to give you the nod and say yes. And that's why, by the way, and this is insane, but the business model of the record label when it was popping and they were at the height of the record business making the most amount of money, 95% of the artists that were signed to any label lost money. Not because they sucked.
Yeah.
You didn't get signed if you sucked. It's just they didn't get on the radio. They weren't chosen. Yeah. You know, the good news is on digital, we don't have to ask anybody's permission, right? And now the cost of making the music is way down. Like there are brilliant people who can create amazing records in their basement or in their garage and make it competitive and viable. So now who decides what they're going to watch on social media?
The individual.
The individual.
What they watch.
And what are they always going to choose?
What they want. What they already want. Their jam.
Their jam. What they're familiar with, right? Now, here's the other thing. And I brought this up on this consultation last night with this guy. I said, so you know that one video that you saw that's just really super funny or super entertaining or super provocative or whatever, and you watched it, and maybe you watched it twice, but when was the last time you ever watched it 3 times?
Yeah, not often.
Hardly at all, right? Because your brain's like, I already saw that.
Yeah.
Zip, and you zoom past it in your feed. So, wow, we get to 2 spins on digital, and then they already know it.
Yeah.
If you can get to 2, but they already know it. So now what are you going to do? What are you going to do to the other 4 or 5 spins that you need to get to the point where you're even subconsciously recognizable to a new consumer, somebody who doesn't know who you are?
You got to find a different doorway to walk through.
Yeah, so this is a long buildup, but this is what we want to talk about. But I mean, I want to set the stage, right? So it's like build your base, state your case, save your face. So what are some different ideas? I mean, this is one of the reasons why we push cover songs, mashups. So on digital, your content has to be one of 3 things to be even consumable, much less shareable, which is obviously what you want too. So the one of 3 things has to be inspirational, it has to be educational, or it has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Now, you think, well, I'm an entertainer, I'm a singer, and I'm a songwriter. So that's entertaining. No, that's not entertaining because they don't know who you are. So they're not going to give you the time of day. You have to Trojan horse yourself into the mind of the consumer. And then once you get in there, like once you get that shot in there, you still have to do it multiple times to be able to become someone that's recognizable, to move to the familiar spot from the unfamiliar spot of an artist. So how does that happen? If you're doing cover songs or mashups leading up, let's say, to a lead single, that's a brilliant way to do it. Consistency matters.
For sure.
You have to have consistency. It trumps everything. Absolutely trumps everything. We've talked about the Chainsmokers release strategy. Number one thing in that is consistency.
Yeah.
We talked about Noah Guthrie breaking on YouTube. He broke on digital. How do you do it? Consistency. 77 videos in a row, one a week, 77 weeks in a row with a cover song that he did it. And then he developed enough recognition from people who really liked what he was doing that he got that big viral hit. And that changed the game. He literally broke on YouTube, which led him to a contract with NBC at Glee. He was cast on Glee. And now, pre-COVID, he does 750 seaters every weekend, hard ticket sales, makes a living doing what he wants to do, right? Isn't that the way American Idol worked?
Ideally, yeah. They got these artists in front of millions of people every week. And so really up their brand recognition.
But over and over and over and over and over again. Right. And still, now think about
cover songs.
Think about that for a second. If you're old enough to have started watching American Idol when it first started, when Kelly Clarkson won, there was on major broadcast network. I think there was 15 seasons before it moved to Fox.
Okay,
it's mathematically sound and scientifically sound to say that the winner and the runner-up of each season got the most amount of television exposure.
Yeah,
right. 2 million. We're talking about like 30 million people. That was a big show for Fox, right?
Yes.
So you can't name 5 of them.
Yeah, I can name Kelly Clarkson and Carrie Underwood, and that's about it.
Yeah.
There's one other guy.
So they were hot, and then they were gone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Except for those couple.
Yeah. Think about that. So again, there's the consistency part, right? Even when you get a platform that big, you can't just disappear and come back.
Right.
You get forgotten.
Bo Bice? Did Bo? Or was he second?
No, he came in second. I thought he was going to change the world, and Bo Bice got a little lost in what's his face from Arista doing pop songs, and I thought he was going to bring back rock and roll, but he didn't. I think that speaks to the consistency part. So I got some different ideas, and I want to put you down this road, and if you have some ideas, man, hit us back.
Yeah, we'll be dropping this episode in the C.L.I.M.B community, so beautiful space for comments right there on Facebook.
Here you go. So here's one idea that I have. In the interest of consistency, and in order for it to work and to be seen, you have to put out a lot of content, right? And it has to be competitive, of course.
Yes.
And it has to be inspirational, educational, or entertaining, right? Now, there's some artists like OK Go that did some of these visually incredible,
very entertaining
videos. So it was extremely entertaining just visually. It had nothing to do with the song.
Yeah.
You just could not watch it because it was fascinating, right? Starting with the treadmill thing. And you have Granger Smith, who did comedy. Yeah. With Earl Dibbles Jr. He's creating a thread there where people are watching him because he's going to be funny with Earl Dibbles Jr. And then he gets his audience in line, and then they're going to be there and they're going to listen to the music. And he grew a $1.8 million a year empire literally from his laptop and road work. Yeah. But there's only 4 people behind that. That was Granger Smith, his brother, the lawyer, and and the lady on the PR agency he works with. You have that. You had Noah Guthrie broke through with consistency on cover songs, right? Like a killer blues singer, and he was just putting his artistic interpretation on stuff.
Yep.
And you can still get a lot of organic traffic from that. So what else could you do? Like what could mid-level artists, right, or high-level artists? One of the ideas that I had was, and mark my words, I said this. Okay, this is. I might have mentioned this on the show before. Did I mention this?
I don't know. It depends on where you're going.
Okay, so what if an artist comes out with a lead single? It's a killer single. Sidestep for just a second. Lil Nas X.
Okay.
Number 1 for 26 weeks in a row, I think, right? Was it the same song? Yes.
Yes.
Was it the same recording?
No.
So what was he doing that was so brilliant with that?
He kept doing remixes, kept bringing in guest artists. I mean, most people know the Billy Ray Cyrus, but there was also so many. Somebody
else that he did a duet with on that song. And it just kept re-hitting number 1 and it didn't come off the charts. So he was changing the content, same song.
Yeah.
So what if we did a video
version
fresh.
Of that? So what do we do a video version of that?
By the way, okay, so maybe this requires money from a label, but also what if you open sourced a bunch of students, like film students, that had any interest in music videos at all? So this would be a resourceful way to get it for free.
Yeah.
But you go and you say, okay, we're going to release this single and I want like 6 or 8 different videos for the same song.
Yeah. Not different video edits, like different videos.
Completely different directors.
Different directors.
Like, okay, do your thing, right? Like, how would you interpret this? Whatever you want to do. And the artist just says, I promise, if it involves me, right?
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, it's got to be consonant with the brand or whatever. But instead of having to hem and haw over like the perfect concept that must happen for the single, we get away from that and we start talking about, well, how much content can we put out there? That's my winner right there. That's my winner idea.
And we talked about this just briefly. And John was like, stop talking. Let's hit record. So we haven't really dove into this very much. I think what's interesting is if I don't already know who you are, I don't care that you have a new video out. But if I'm a fan that knows who you are enough, or maybe the thumbnail grabs me, or that little bit that starts playing on mute as I'm scrolling through my feed grabs me, then I'll listen. But if I already know who you are, then that's interesting. I want to watch every one of them. Yeah.
And see what's going to happen next. And I think that's also a little bit of news, isn't it?
A little bit of news. You can get more interactive. Like, what's your favorite?
Yeah.
All kinds of that kind of stuff.
Or what's your idea?
Yeah.
You have an idea? Out crowdsource the damn video?
Yeah.
Where audience members like, hey, I'm a videographer.
Hey, here's a Dropbox of all the video files. Why don't you do your own edit?
Ooh.
I mean, I know.
That's genius, dude. That just happened.
So I know some bands that have released like the stems of their stuff. And they're like, do your own remix.
Yeah.
Of like famous bands. I want to say like Radiohead's done that maybe. Yeah. Of released some of that stuff where you can go do your own remixes.
I'm not sure how well that did in the consumer world, but I got a bunch of those stems because I'm just like,
yeah, exactly.
Queen and Def Leppard.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not for everybody because, I mean.
You have to be an audio geek to want to want to dig into it. But the different video edits is fascinating. In the same way that Madonna and some of the other pop artists, they'll let these DJs do like remixes of it. You know what I mean? And that becomes like a big club thing, club hit. But then they're hearing it over and over and over and over and over again. It's shrouded in new or dressed up in new content. Yeah. And so it's different, but it's the same hook, right? Yeah. And it's the same message in that song. Because that's what's interesting to them, what makes it consumable and entertaining is they know the song. And so you go and you do something really compellingly different with that song, hopefully. For instance, with what Noah Guthrie did with LMFAO's Sexy and I Know It, which was his biggie, or with the Gourds, which is a bluegrass band. Think about that for a second. Just marinate on that. Who did Gin and Juice. They covered Gin and Juice from Snoop Dogg. Or think about what Marilyn Manson did with Sweet Dreams from the Eurythmics. Most of his fans probably don't even know who the Eurythmics are. Yeah. They think that's his song.
But that's what made me want to listen to that.
Yeah.
Is going, oh, man, I haven't heard that song in a long time. That was creepy then.
And I'm not a big fan
of do to it?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Marilyn Manson, but you can't deny how compellingly different he made it his own. And that's the key on the cover songs. You have to take the artistic license to do whatever you want to do. Yeah, he made that creepy. Sweet dreams are made of these. How am I?
Here's something, too, that made me think about on TikTok. So, you can do the duet feature.
Ooh.
And what if you're somebody you've done the work, you've been building up this thing, and a lot of times they'll do duets on cover songs, like what's a big song from Star is Born? Shallow.
Shallow. Yeah.
So everybody on TikTok was doing, and they were doing duets. Like one guy would be playing guitar and be like, "Hey, duet me up. Come on, duet me." And he'd sing the male part, and he'd just play over the female part. And then a female TikToker, whoever, anybody could do it, or a dude could do it, didn't matter, could jump in, stitch it together, sing the female part, and now you got this duet that's on her feed, and also his version's getting out there. So you're getting people to duet with you, and you're doing no quality control.
Brilliant.
But you get to hear the original person that's doing the cover.
Yeah.
So many times, so it's going to be like, ooh, he's really good. I listen to it because I follow her who do the duet.
And if you do like a killer guitar arrangement, you're going to be like the favorite
one that people are riffing off.
The one that they're going to pick. Yeah.
Or that I did that with just like
brilliant.
A reaction video of some guy that does these crazy kind of videos, whatever. And I found a way to make it relevant for the songwriter audience because I've been playing around on TikTok a little bit to make it about lyrics or whatever for my audience. And I did this reaction thing, and it got a lot more views. One thing, he was really interesting, so I'm kind of coasting on his visual, like the dude's wow what he does, and then made it relevant for my audience. And it got a lot more views than my normal stuff.
There you go.
And so what if, if you're an independent artist, here's my new song, maybe you can download it here, or the previous video, you do the whole thing. Now duet me.
Yeah.
And you send that out, and people are duetting you because they want to get noticed by you. They want to get in your feed. And now you're getting in their feed. So that's something that's already going on in TikTok. So
what a way to, like, if you're like an up-and-coming artist, to include fans who have a little bit of talent too.
Exactly. What if you go, here's a spot for the hip-hop break.
Yeah.
Somebody freestyle.
Brilliant.
And then
with just a killer hook.
Yeah, right? You got your thing, and that way, boom, all these freestyle rappers, whatever they want to do, like throw on your...
You do cool hooks like that. And you can make inroads into the whole rap community with that. Because there's like guys who are in the rap community just because they do beats and they're brilliant with beats, that are just make these compellingly interesting beats. How about a songwriter with something to say that's got this great melodic hook with a great lyric, and then you're like, okay, rappers, spit out the genius, man. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that with, like, if you're an artist. Here's the whole song, but I'm going to include this spot here for you to freestyle.
Yeah.
Hit me up. Or even do 2 spots or whatever. And then on something like a TikTok where they can pop right in, it's super easy and they just go right on.
So they can show their skills.
So that's your value for them, but everybody gets more visible.
Oh, I love that. That's genius.
Thank you.
You should be in marketing. You're good at that.
I was a marketing minor. Arkansas State University.
Spell minor.
17.
All right, guys. Well, so we pulled that out of our behind. We want to hear what your ideas are. Like, what could you come together? Like, what could you dream up? Like, drop the ideas in the C.L.I.M.B community. Who knows? You might come up with an idea, and I'm have an artist that I can run with it on.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, that would be absolutely fascinating. TikTok is sort of the way you describe another way to crowdsource.
Yeah.
Some
marketing, really.
Some marketing.
Yeah, because they can duet with you. They can do reaction videos. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
That's killer. So for the artists that are trying to break through, first of all, get used to TikTok. Get on TikTok, right? And then start out with a sling of cover songs.
Right.
Where you leave that space for somebody else to pop in, and maybe you get some love.
Yeah.
On
build your audience.
Way. And then you drop your single, and then leave the space for somebody else to sing that single.
Can you do another layer of mashup of known songs with your kind of original thrown in, and then you're getting duets on the known hit mashup part? Like, I'm going to do the mashup of the verse of some hit song, Carrie Underwood song. I'm going to throw my own chorus thing on there, kind of mash it up, and then duet me on the Carrie Underwood second verse.
And you get that hook in there.
Or something like that.
So it's like the verses are like from the Carrie Underwood song, or whatever star. That's what they're going to duet on. But your hook
is the mashup part.
And the hook is good. What am I going to want to do?
Where'd that come from?
I want to listen to the rest of that song.
Exactly.
Oh, that just happened.
There we go.
Damn, we got to do this more often. I'm sober too. Like I want to do this with a couple cocktails. We can come up with some serious. So anyway, guys, subscribe to the podcast wherever you do. Join the C.L.I.M.B community. Leave comments on the C.L.I.M B community. Leave a rating and review. We want to hear what you got to say. Hopefully it's 5-star, but if it's 1, we read them all.
We do.
And then tell a friend about it. That's it. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.